What are the best loadouts against bots and terminids after the Escalation of Buffs update? Which support weapons have taken the spotlight? How utterly epic are machine guns and flame-based weapons now? I set out to explore these questions, and let me tell you folks, I've been having an absolute blast getting to grips with the insane variety of new viable weapon combos now on offer. With that in mind, I wanted to share my thoughts on what some of the best loadouts are now. As always, this is just my opinion and boils down to my own in-game experience. You may agree or disagree, but either way, let's keep the comments constructive. I'll split the video into two sections, one for bugs and one for bots, and we'll cover a multiple set of eventualities in both sections. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. So, what are some of the best loadouts against terminids after the update? Let's kick things off with what are, in my opinion, some of the most fun and viable choices for our squishy, swarmy adversaries. The changes to the performance of a multitude of primary and support weapons with the anti-tank options ascending to new levels of epic has blown our range of choices wide open. I've found myself playing two different build templates, which I will refer to as backpack and non-backpack loadouts. Both have slight variations which you can utilize depending on what your other squad mates are doing. For backpack loadouts, and due to the vast number of chaff and spewers you can find yourself up against, I am loving the newly buffed Crossbow and Railgun against bugs. The rate of fire, damage, and AoE the Crossbow offers is absolutely devastating, and as expected, the Railgun is now doing even more serious work against chargers and impalers, whilst also doing respectable work against Bile Titans with some well-placed headshots. Headshots to Alpha Commanders and Spewers make short work of them, and you can quickly find yourself weaving between the Crossbow for devastating AoE, bug hole closes, and nest and spore spewer destruction. As always, ammo economy is an area to be highly aware of, high up on your potential choice of stratagem picks. Something else which should be high up on your priorities list is our channel sponsor, Instant Gaming. They can offer you exciting titles such as Space Marine 2 and Black Myth Wukong at insanely discounted prices. Instant Gaming is 100% legit because they acquire all their keys directly from the source, providing you authenticity without compromise, and this is reflected in their 4.7 Trustpilot score from over 720,000 reviews. Instant Gaming is not just another key marketplace, folks. Everything comes from authorized sellers. In terms of Space Marine 2, if you're looking to pick up the standard edition of the game, you can grab this for a reduced cost of $52, which is down from $67. So, if you want to save some money on video games and support me and the Phase Shift community as we take on the Tyrannid scum, click on the link in the description or the pinned comment below and enjoy those juicy Instant Gaming discounts. Now, back to the video. An old favourite of mine is now at the forefront of my choices again as well, folks. The Quasar and the Blitzer. You know the score here. The Blitzer just absolutely rocks terminids. They get bullied around with ease, and you can make short work of an Alpha Commander with a well-placed ADS headshot, taking it off cleanly here, folks. Quasar's charge up time is well worth the insane levels of obliteration this offers us against terminid heavy offerings, taking the heads off Bile Titans and chargers with ease, and this really does take me back to the early days when the Quasar was just put into the game, and what a great time that was. Combine it with a jetpack and you can do some really exciting swashbuckling plays, a very fun and viable loadout, folks. More generally, I want to talk about how utterly epic MGs and fire weapons feel now. I've never been a massive fan of a FlameThrower, but oh my word, I cannot believe how awesome both the Torture and the FlameThrower feel to play now. I've been particularly impressed with how well the Torture performs with its primary weapon status, and this is further compounded when we combine this with utility choices such as the stun or most recently the gas grenade. Both of these are excellent, but the newly added gas grenade lingers for around 15 seconds, and during that time it confuses enemies, opening up that window for you to melt the little suckers into oblivion. The gas is actually now my go-to grenade choice quite often, closely followed by the Thermite. More on that one later, folks, but I digress. Fire weapons make short work of chargers when you fry their faces and weak spots, and are an absolute must-try in my opinion, folks. Combine the FlameThrower with either Blitzer or the Crossbow and you will be blown away at just how strong you've become. You can, of course, combine this choice with either the Laser Dog or the Supply Pack, depending on the approach you wish to take. Now, the MG43 and the MG206 both have a very special place in my heart at the moment, particularly the MG43 43. It rips through Terminid chaff with ease, and it's particularly impressive now against alpha commanders, disposing of those nuisances easily. Whilst the 206 has experienced a nerf, I still really rate this weapon for fun factor and the ability to shred through things like spewers and alphas too, and it also does great work to the weak spots on chargers and impalers. For backpack loadouts, I'm going to keep this brief. The blitzer or the crossbow paired with a recoilless or a spear offer us more than we could have ever hoped for against terminids. They now behave exactly how they should be, deleting heavy resistance with ease. It actually has proper anti-tank status now, folks, and it's incredibly satisfying to use both of these weapons. And if you're more inclined to sit back and defend yourself whilst picking off larger threats in the Terminid arsenal, this is absolutely the way to go. Moving on to stratagems, if you're rocking a backpack loadout, your remaining 2 slots I consider to be flex picks, and this really boils down to what you want to do and how your squad mates are set up. These are Eagle Strafe, Eagle Airstrike, 500 kg, Orbital Airburst, Orbital Gatling, and Orbital Precision. I know this is a lot, but it's so subjective and down to personal preference when trying to lock these down. The Strafe and the Gatling have found themselves on the receiving end of buffs last patch, as we already know, with the Strafe gaining an extra charge and being able to do damage to heavily armored targets. It makes it an excellent opener or finisher for biles and chargers, softening them up for more heavy hitting things such as the Railgun, Quasar, or Spear, autocannon, you name it. Try to combine these together and you can get some absolutely epic results. The Gatling is here for the same reason, and the added bonus, it has an increased fire rate since the last patch and a 70-second cooldown. Both can destroy terminid structures such as spore spewers and shrieker nests, further compounding why you might want to take at least one of these 2 along with you. I would also say, folks, that since Escalation of Freedom, the Gatling just feels even more useful just because of the sheer volume of enemies and how quickly we can use this on repeat. Airburst is of course for niching into your bug breach clears, and 500 kg or airstrike provide you with the ability to do work to both large groups of horde and armored targets. Precision Strike coupled with a stun grenade can allow you to kite chargers together, stun lock them, and destroy multiples of them at the same time with some well-placed hits. It can also do excellent work on Bile Titans if you can bait the spit and time that drop at the right time. Now, some special mentions for this patch specifically. Orbital Napalm Strike is absolutely devastating, no 2 ways about it. A great choice when you're running an anti-tank loadout and you have that extra stratagem slot. It's just so satisfying dropping this into a nest or an automaton positions. Just make sure you keep your distance, folks. Now, rather than just running stun grenades, I've found myself running either gas grenades for the combo of CC and dot damage to control the battlefield. It's just so useful for opening up opportunities, and the stun grenade is also, as you already know, folks, really useful in this regard. But my new favourite has to be the Thermite when I'm feeling in the mood to really bring the pain to the Terminid menace and automaton scum. This thing can one-shot chargers, does serious work to Bile Titans and Impalers, and as you'll see in the bot section, it's also incredibly impressive there as well. With that in mind, in terms of the armor, I've actually found myself switching between light and medium armors with the engineering perk to give us more bang for our buck with grenade slots, or I go for the usual peak physique to improve our stability with weapons such as the 206 or the autocannon, which is still absolutely fantastic, by the way, folks. For armor, I'm incredibly biased. Note we don't need. Moving on to the bots, I'm actually finding a lot of similarities with the last set of loadouts I was using, so there's not too much that's changed here in terms of my own preferences. Before we go into any specific setups, I just want to highlight how utterly insane any form of laser maxing is now after the recent update. Any combination of the Scythe, Sickle, laser cannon, Quasar, and the Thermite grenade is an absolute joy to play, and I actually think that this is probably my favourite go-to arrangement of weapons when I'm facing our oil-swilling adversaries. The increase to damage to the Scythe makes this an incredibly viable choice, dealing with berserkers and devastators brilliantly, setting them on fire. It's absolutely awesome. The same goes for the Sickle. This thing's always been super punchy to use in my opinion, and I think that the updated sound effect is a great touch there from Arrowhead. The Quasar is just a reliable old horse that alleviates that ammo economy issue when paired with other energy weapons, and the laser cannon, as you already know, can do serious work to heavy targets with well-placed shots. The DCS and the anti-tank choices such as the recoilless and the spear are also incredible combos, with the DCS making short work of berserkers and devastators with some well-placed headshots, and this is a very fun one to use, folks. Choices are now, well, anti-tank choices, folks. They actually work. You can obliterate bot armored columns efficiently, just like it should be, and the arc thrower is now back on the menu with its ability to stun and travel further distances, and it just means you need to keep your wits about you so you don't fry your teammates, folks. For bots, this update has seen some of our weapons become even more effective against gunship engines, which is a welcome change, and the addition of rocket striders into the fray has meant we need to be even more focused on dealing with heavy armored chaff to be effective. In terms of backpack loadouts, the Railgun has found itself as one of my premier choices in this update. Fueled by a supply pack, it cannot be understated just how utterly devastating this weapon is once you get into the gunslinger style of play it necessitates. It can one-shot devastators and the new rocket strider with ease, which is incredibly satisfying and strong in the game's current state, believe me, folks. It's also very strong against recently nerfed gunships, taking them down much more easily than previous updates, and this feels great, and I fully recommend that you revisit this if you haven't already. And it could also, of course, dispatch hulks with well-placed shots to the eye. Once again, very satisfying. The AMR is also now back into my top choices against bots. I'm not really sure it ever did leave. It can one-tap devastators, two-tap hulks if you pinpoint their eye, and now, perhaps most impressively, it can two-shot gunships, which is absolutely insane. And as if it wasn't enough, it can also one-shot rocket striders if you hit their hip axle durable spot. This weapon feels even more immense to play now. You can, of course, still take the HMG for its insane prowess against heavies once again, and much like the Terminids, the grenade launcher is excellent if you are accurate and fueling it with a supply pack. All the stratagem choices for bots are the same as bugs, aside from the fact the 120, 380 and walking barrages are quite attractive if you're keen to go and deal with all bases. This is particularly useful against the new fortress-sized bases. I'm also a huge advocate of rocket sentry and autocannon sentry. Bring these along if you're using things like the autocannon, or, to be honest, any other of the support weapons, and these do absolutely brilliant work against gunships and factory striders and such like. Unless you're using the laser cannon, I would fully recommend using the supply pack as your backpack choice. If you are using laser cannon, then shield and jetpack are the way to go here, folks. Your primary anti-automaton weapon is going to be your plasma punisher. I often don't recommend choosing one thing over everything else, but honestly, I really do think the plasma punisher is probably up there with, if not the best choice here. It just absolutely crowd controls the life out of everything. It's ridiculous. The tenderizer, the sickle, the scorcher, the cookout, the jar 5 dominator are all highly usable, but I just still find myself defaulting back to the plasma punisher. If you're interested in taking a deeper look into some more primary and support weapon combos for the hardest difficulty in Helldivers 2, including some of the weapons that I just mentioned there, check out this next video. It's got you covered. Take care of yourselves, keep having fun, and I'll see you in the next one.